is that house, which still looks the same from the road today. At that time, it was the home of Charles M. Corcoran in 1880. And there are several houses in this book which are related to the Hidden View Farm where we are today. Everything is connected with everything else, as we learned since we came here today. But we're going to talk about farm safety. We're going to talk about how to roll a truck they do in those big truck competitions on television and come out of it laughing and smiling. We're going to talk about a lot of different things. Jean-Paul Tetreault, how are you?
Good. You?
Great to see you. When's the last time you cooked a dinner for somebody?
Last night.
Did you? Right here at home?
Right here at St. Mary's. That's at KC. I cooked for 170 people last night.
Unbelievable. He can milk cows by hand with one hand and flip flapjacks with the other.
Yeah. Not flapjack. I don't like flapjack.
Oh, you know?
Well, I've seen them at Dragoons before. So
Have you? Well, we've all seen him at Dragoons
I'll
before.
eat them, but I'm not. It's not my favorite food. No.
Well, you're a legendary farmer and a legendary culinary expert.
Yeah.
How many dinners do you think you put on?
Oh my! I've been doing that for about 15 years at least. And that's I never charge nothing for putting them on. They pay the food. I go get the food and I cook it for them. They pay me the food and that's it.
You know what? We spend a lot of time promoting this North Country as being a good place to live and work and raise a family, and there's living proof of it right there. You know, if somebody needs help, you help them.
Yeah.
You need help, somebody helps you.
Yeah.
Like the old farming days, right? When one guy had the combine and it went back and forth from every farm to the next.
Right.
But how did you get into cooking?
After the boys took over the farm, when they got about 60, 62, I said, "You gonna stay on the farm?" So they said, "Yeah." So I said, "If you want to work,
you gonna stay on the farm?
Yeah, if you want to work,
stay. You boys gonna stay on the farm?"
I said, "If you want to work your butt off, stay on the farm." So they all stayed. So I said, after I got 62, I said, "The farm there is yours. I'm done. I'm going to do something else that I want to do." And that's why I started cooking.
Isn't that wonderful? And this is kind of a unique story, as we're doing this a couple days after St. Patty's Day in 2009. The cows didn't give green milk this week, did they?
No, they didn't.
No, they didn't.
And I help out for the firemen when they have their firemen's breakfast in Champlain. I helped cook there. Then I cook for the breakfast at St. Mary's and their harvest dinner. I'm in charge of it there for cooking all the meals at harvest dinner.
That's wonderful. That's what I love about the Northern Tier and the rest of Clinton County. It is a good place. There are a lot of other counties. Wherever you live, you're proud of that place. But I'm very proud to be right here where we are. This farm, we saw the house right down the road. How did you come about that one?
We were living here on this farm first. My dad lived on this farm.
What was your dad's name?
Wilford.
I got it.
And we've been here. I was 10. When I was 21, that farm went for sale. So my dad said, "You want that farm?" "Yeah." He says, "I'll back you up on it if you want it." So that's where we bought it. Now I've been there since 1953. I started there, just that little farm. So, but I never thought in my lifetime it would get this big like it is now.
You know, farming has changed an awful lot in my lifetime and your lifetime.
Yes.
You're probably about my age. And it has changed an awful lot since we started milking cows by hand way back when.
I think I'm a lot older than you.
Really?
Yes.
Well, you just look like a young guy.
I'm 78.
Oh, you are. You're 6 years older than I am. Well, I wouldn't want to arm wrestle you today. No, sir. No, sir. So the farm started out small.
Yeah.
And now it's up to how many? 1,100?
Total heads probably just a hair over 1,000.
How many acres?
About 1,100 acres.
1,100. I remembered something from all the stuff
I
I've
started
read
off
about you.
over there with about 20 cows.
Did you really?
Yeah.
You know, I was telling somebody this past weekend down in South Carolina, you know, back when I started working on the farm as a young kid, 35, 40 Holsteins was a good-sized dairy.
Yes.
You could support a big family on that. Not anymore.
No, oh no. And right now the price of milk is we can't even do it with this. Right now we're in the hole, but the price of milk went down so much.
How many times, Calvin, have you and I gone through this whole litany over and over and over again? As we used to go to every one of the North Country fairs, we talked to farmers who weren't making ends meet. You know, and when I started doing this back in 1997, long before that, then the price of milk gets up there, and then look what happens. Now look where you are now.
About I'd say 3 years ago, you could make it at about $12, $13 100. You could make ends even, but now you can't because everything else went up so much. The fuel and all that, you can't. You got to have 15, 16 just to break even now.
Yeah. Well, that's only one reason why I have such tremendous respect for farmers. And for I knew I was going to knock it down. It's lithium grease with silicone. I might need some before we finish. I knew I was going to hit it. But that's why I have such great respect for farmers and farming. It's an occupation that we used to say the salt of the earth. But it's harder and harder and harder to keep family farms going. Every year we see farms going up in the auction block. Breaks my heart. I lived in St. Lawrence County near the river, St. Lawrence River for a long time. Beautiful dairy farming county. I ride my bike around the summertime when we camp up there, and what do you see? Broken down barns, broken down houses. The auctioneers get a lot of business these days.
Take a ride down 22 going from Keysville way down to Fort Henry to 22. There's no more farm left on, not at all.
So this is probably a story that's familiar to most of our viewers, but there still are some who look at us on the internet at Plattsburgh.com around who don't have farms anymore where they live. It's important, I think.
Yeah, I shouldn't say at one time. In 19, don't quote me to this, but around 97, there was probably 140 to 150,000 dairy farms in the U.S., and we're down below 57,000 right now.
Well, there's your point. We haven't even introduced Dale yet, and
I'm done.
You're Don, I know you are. He doesn't look a bit different than that day when he was under the tractor.
A little bit better. He can at least stand up this time.
So you guys were weaned on farming.
Pretty much, yeah.
As young kids.
Yeah.
And
farming and hockey.
Well, everything is connected. I insist that we all there's a little invisible thread that connects all of us and all events in history. And if you talk to people long enough, you're going to find you're related to their cousin or uncle or father-in-law. And when I walked in, Dale says, "You got a son named Kirk." I played hockey against him. But we were just talking how many times they were banged into the boards over the years back in those days. That would have been what? Sometime in the...
84.
In 84?
Well, we played against each other all the way through because he played for the Roadrunners.
Yeah, oh yeah, from
little kids growing all the way up.
Through. And I suppose you, with your father, were like he was with me. If I ever get knocked down, don't you come running down on the ice to see if I'm all right.
Oh, yeah.
As many times as I wanted to jump over the boards and see if he was still alive.
Actually, Mom was the worst one for that.
Oh,
she wouldn't come down. She would be, "Get up,"
My wife would be there, and I'd just grab her leg and squeeze. She, "What are you trying to do? Kill me?" More fun, huh? More fun.
I even played hockey when I started. We grew up too, and we had no rink, and we didn't have no hockey stick when I started as a kid. We used to go.
Here we are. Now we're back in the 18th century. Right?
Yeah.
No hockey stick?
No, we go in the woods, the cedar trees will grow. They start like this, and they go up like this.
Sure.
So we gotta cut one and flatten up both sides with a stick. Guess what we use for a puck?
I can't imagine.
Horse turd.
Okay.
I don't think you can say that.
I think that's a hometown cable first.
The Sears catalog. You should tell us about the Sears catalog.
Oh, we know about those too.
Sears catalog for pads. Sears buck catalog. We put that for pads.
Oh, you did.
If you were a goalie.
You probably took it out of the back house just to use on I told Calvin I was in somebody's bathroom last week. This is exciting news. But they had a little list of things you can't do when you leave the privy, the back house. Yeah. The last thing on the list was don't leave the door open or the chickens will get in. Yeah. So that's how you started.
Yeah.
And you passed that along to your kid, but you didn't even have indoor ice when you started,
No,
right?
no. When I
Did you
started,
play too, Don?
Yep.
Who we got over here?
Dan.
Dan.
Yeah, we all
So
played.
many D's here. No,
That's
you
mother's
all
fault.
played hockey?
Yeah.
And you still play? Do you guys still play?
I still, in fact, the last time I was on hometown cable, I scored against my brother in the alumni game.
It's only fair, right?
I was on the bench talking to John Zerl about that. He had a bad hamstring, and he was telling me Mike Zerl had a bad shoulder or something. And Fred Stone says to us, he goes, "You're not supposed to be saying that." I says, "There's no such thing as family when you're playing against a brother."
Not in hockey.
You know, there have been brothers against brothers in war since the Civil War time, and why not on the hockey rink? Because that's war, right?
If we play cards or play pinochle, we play cards. There's no more friends when you play.
Cutthroat.
Hell yeah.
Cutthroat, pinochle.
There's no friends or family when you hockey or cards or.
Well, I don't see too many scars. So apparently, the war doesn't go to the dinner table.
No.
Ends with the game.
Check it at the door.
When the game's done, you're done.
Isn't it amazing? But hockey's a great sport, and of course, at this part of the country, you know. Are you all Montreal fans?
No.
No, none of us.
Rangers?
He's a Ranger fan. I'm a Sabre fan. He's a Sabre fan, and he's
I'm
a
an
Ranger.
Islander fan.
Isn't it amazing how they go? I used to follow Montreal all the time. The Montreal-Boston games were the best games you could ever attend. I had a way of getting tickets up in Montreal. Now I kind of watch the Rangers.
My dad
Gives
was
you
a
something to
Montreal
swear
fan.
at when they lose, right?
My dad used to watch Montreal. He was a Montreal fan. But what I didn't like about Montreal way back is there was, remember when there was only 6 teams playing?
Oh, yeah.
Well, every year Montreal had the first pick. Every year, no matter if they come in last or first, they always pick first. So I always said, that's not fair. So I said, I ain't not for them anymore.
That's amazing. So anyway, from 20 cows up to how many milkers? 550?
Well, yeah, I think there's 600. I had looked at the computer this morning. There's 600 milking and dry. We pushed 490 through the parlor this morning, and we produced 37,000 pounds of milk today.
And there are old-time farmers who are watching this show saying, boy, that's a lot of cows. But guess what? That's not even close to being the biggest farm in Clinton County.
Not even.
No,
You can't believe it.
it's not close to even being the biggest farm in the United States when you have Bill Baum with 21,000 cows in milk.
No, I can't even. Can you
Fathom that.
Can you fathom that? Somebody got to get that?
Not really, but
Machine will pick
Yeah.
it up.
Oh, really? We love phones ringing. It means it's busy. Let's pause for a minute. Our viewers didn't realize that we're going to cover so many bases today, so many hockey rinks. Did you ever? You played on your own rink, you guys up here in Champlain.
Yep. And at one time, we used to travel to Plattsburgh to the
Great.
crate, and the only time we could get ice time a lot of times was 4 o'clock in the morning. So you can just imagine what
Been there,
time.
done that. 3 jugs of coffee, 4 o'clock in the morning up at the field house when
Yeah.
they first opened it.
Yep.
Boy, you get humble real fast. You also fall asleep before
Yeah.
practice is over.
And then Mom did all the karting of all of us, and of course these guys they're 7 years older than me, 6 and 7 years older than me. So we'd have to get there early in the morning, because a lot of times they did it 2 different ways. They'd have the older guys play first, and then they'd go. So we'd have to wait. They'd have to wait all day sometime unless somebody was coming back so they could come home. Dad usually made sure they came home because there was something for them to do.
Those were the days. I mean, Giroux's rink, and I've been in every outdoor rink and every indoor-outdoor rink, and there weren't very many warm ones. It was nice when they finally built the field house.
You had to shovel before
Yeah.
you could play. That was your practice.
That's how it all started.
Yeah,
Our kids started at Bailey Avenue, my older kids.
Yeah, kids don't remember having to shovel off, between intermission, all these kids go in their nice warm locker rooms today.
Yeah.
And we used to have to, between intermission, shovel
The Zamboni was you and your friends.
yeah.
Get a shovel, do the job, right?
Yep.
Anyway, lots of fun. Farming and hockey. See how they go together? You wouldn't believe it. I want people to know there are a lot of reasons we came up here today. First of all, you're one of the neatest families I ever met in my life because you've done so much and seen so much here. But an event happened in 1989 that will forever be marked indelibly on the wall at the Hidden View Farm. on this road up in Champlain. How did that day start for you, Donald?
Well, we were busy that day. We were doing hay. We were trying to finish. Actually, we were trying to finish hay that day because it was my son's birthday. So we were trying to hurry up to get done. And the tractor I was using broke down, so I switched tractors. So wasn't. Of course, it was one of newer. It was a little bit newer to us at the time.
Yeah, only 1966 or
Yeah.
something was. Newer at the
Well, I
time.
mean, we had just bought it at the auction in the spring.
Yeah.
So, and I wasn't. It's not quite used to driving it, but I figured I'd just switch tractors and just keep finishing my job here, then we can get done and cover it. It doesn't work that way.
So you were in the hay pile.
Yep. What it was, I was
5-6 feet off the ground.
yeah. It was when I was packing it, I backed to the edge, and I got ready to and I shifted forward. When it started to move forward, the pile slid down. Of course, when you hit bottom and you're still moving forward, up she comes. Of course, in that point in time, I just figured it was not the place to be sitting, was in the seat. So I tried to bail.
And how close did you come to get?
Well, actually, I was trying to walk up between the fender well and the tire
Oh God!
when it was going over. But when it came down, it hit the muffler, so it tipped it. So it threw me into the tire. Of course, that's where I ended up breaking all my ribs when the tire hit me.
But you were one lucky son of a gun, Donald.
Oh, yeah.
One out of a million.
Yeah.
Install?
No, tractor was still running.
Still running upside
Yeah,
down.
he was out. He was out.
I was probably about-
unconscious when I got to him. I came around. I was first to get there. The tractor was still running, and I shut the tractor off. I kind of skirted in between him and the tractor, shut the tractor off, and then I probably moved him 2 feet, and he said, "Don't move me." In a very
Because you didn't know if you had broken back,
Oh,
broken.
I knew something was hurting.
Well, ribs.
he didn't know
Ribs
what was
is
broken
about as
at that
painful
time.
as
Yeah.
anything else, and you're in a
Yeah,
state
it was
of
just-
shock.
Yeah.
And I ran around, ran through. We had a phone in the barn at the time where we were. That's where Dad's house is, where that happened. And I called 911, then ran into the shop where he was, told him to go stay with Donnie. I says, he's still conscious right now. I says, keep him conscious. I'll wait for the ambulance to come. And what seemed like an eternity was, if I would not have had a watch on my wrist at the time, it was 8 minutes for them to arrive.
That's pretty darn good.
They were there. Champlain, rescue was
EMS.
That's
incredible.
why we promote these guys
That's right.
all the time.
And that Dad's been helping them with their breakfasts forever, and we
See,
do.
there it is. It all goes back to the breakfast.
And we had part of this is we had the training here for them for farm safety with the guys through NICAP NICAMP, with Jim Caraba, showing the guys all kinds of different things that can happen on a farm. And not only that, Jim had us walk through with the EMTs to go through the farm, so that way you're not there just to rescue someone. Don't become
A victim.
a victim yourself, or someone that gets caught down by a
Oh,
cow, methane gas.
No, did this was going on before the accident or after?
This is all after the
Oh,
accident.
after, yeah.
This is
So
what kind of
most
stuff.
farmers know that they have to be safe because people don't realize that there are a lot of things can happen to you. How many farmers do you know, like, this finger's gone, these two fingers are gone because it got caught in something?
Yeah, right.
That's
farmers-
Spog once said this. Go to a farm show
Well,
and watch the farmers that either are amputees or people like that. Just go to a farm show and you will see,
Well, that or
Everywhere.
even at auction.
auctions or farm shows. You would be surprised.
when I first heard Don's story, all those memories flood back about how many friends I've lost under tractors, including little kids, because little kids were allowed to
They were
drive
the
tractor.
biggest casualties from falling off. This is what we've learned in the past 7-8 years. They were the biggest casualties, that we would lose over time.
Because kids, when you're haying, who drives the tractor?
Well, yeah, probably when you were
Of
you and
course.
my father were kids, 8 and 10, 7, 8 years old, we're running the
driving
equipment.
the tractor.
Clinging on the sides. That's the best
hanging on.
description.
Always preach to them when they're driving a tractor, PTO, shut it off before you get off. That was always my policy, told them when they grew up. And
Yeah,
they listened
people
to
don't.
it.
People who aren't farmers don't know that PTO is a power takeoff on
Right,
the
right.
back, or on the side, or wherever it happens to be
Right.
on the tractor. Tractors are built different than they used to be. Several things are important here. First of all, a new tractor costs a lot of money, right? So back in 1989, you had a couple of tractors that dated to the 60s, maybe even before in those times. Well, you keep them going like every other piece of equipment. You do what you need to keep that piece of equipment going because you can't afford to replace it this year because of those milk prices or whatever. And tractors, some of the early tractors were, when you look back on it, they weren't really very safe with the skinny front tires.
Tricycle tires.
Tricycle tires, so you roll over and the tractor spins around on the way. And you couldn't get out.
No cover over the PTO unit.
No cover. No seat belt.
Yeah, someone
no
had the
roll
wheel.
Bars.
The wheel on the side to run the. You guys probably remember that. Bob Venn used to talk about that. The
Sure.
suicide wheel.
Yeah,
Suicide wheel,
wheel they called
yeah.
it. Yeah, it ran a belt that was right next to it. It flapped off. It could catch you. Oh my gosh.
So you had to be thinking all the time, and even when you were thinking all the time, you know what the old phrase is that we won't repeat on television, but it does happen.
Yeah.
And it did happen, and guys would get hurt in so many different ways. Or they'd be in a silo and they'd inhale the smell of the ensilage and they'd be dead meat inside the silo.
Yeah.
So many different things.
I had a classmate that died of that. Was Celine Dutail. She died of silo gases here in Champlain.
Yeah.
First year we graduated out of school.
Anybody who's been around a farm or farmers for any length of time watching this show know that there's dangers every day, no matter where you work.
Absolutely.
But on a farm where you're working with equipment, and now with 1,100 acres, you got a lot of equipment going.
Yeah.
And how many times have you ever heard this story? It's always the last load of the day.
It's exactly the right
The
word.
last load
Yeah.
of the day when you're dead tired. And when you should be shutting off the tractor when you're doing a field and take a little nap, right?
Yep.
But know what I do?
No, what do you do?
I work the field in the spring. Hector, Biddle, and I, we get on the tractor for them. We work the field. We'll work 16 hours a day on the tractor. We're going around the field. If I feel tired, shut the tractor off, sit there, take a nap. Then
Nothing.
get up, start over.
Wait till you guys get to our age. You know.
We use them as in our safety thing. They're our show and tell. They still have their hands and toes and everything, so they're perfect. And they're in their 70s.
78, 72, and and they do all our spring work for us. And hey, and if you want to stop and pull over your tractor, you do what you got to do.
Is there a
What a-
punch card to punch out though?
No, we're not worried about that.
But you're talking about long hours. You're talking when there needs to be a job done. You got to get the job done.
Yeah, if you know the
You know?
pressing. I've seen it. I can't remember how many years ago. We had 4 inches of rain coming, and we had a lot of hay down. We started out at 8 in the morning bringing in haylage. It was 3 o'clock a.m. we finished.
Yeah. Like what are those guys doing with lights on in the field? Well, guess what? You got to do what you got to do.
I think even one of the Gagno boys were running truck that day with Jermaine's because we do custom. We have custom work.
It takes
workers.
us about 2 days to do all the hay, over 200 acres. 2 days we do it all.
Imagine doing that with a horse and a horse and a dump rake.
Yeah.
Huh? Been there, done that too.
I just think Dr. Russell just.
Yeah, he said he won't appear on TV.
Oh, he won't. Right, you'll stop and talk to him, okay? We'll pause for just a minute. Yeah, we walked through the wind into a different venue, as they say on television. This is the shop, boy. This is where the action is, right?
Oh, yeah.
We've spent the last 10 minutes while you weren't watching, unfortunately, because Calvin hits that off button now and again. We learned family history. My mind will be spinning for the next 3.5 weeks. You guys married sisters?
That's right.
And you don't look any different than you did the day you got married. That's amazing.
I'd say I look a little different.
Oh,
I got less hair than I did then.
you know, the interesting thing of it is, come on over, Jean-Paul, get closer. In 1989, when the accident happened, that's what we were talking about a few minutes ago when the camera was running, you were just getting married, Dan, right?
We were just after our honeymoon, just coming back from it.
So it was confusing and scary. And the way you've described this whole accident to me, I said it before and I'll say it again. You are one lucky son of a gun. Somebody up there was watching And you hit that wheel when that tractor went up. By the way, that's the tractor right over there. Calvin's getting a picture of it right now. Still running, right?
Oh, yeah, it's
After
still
all
running.
these years.
Works better than I do some days.
And yeah. But you hit the wheel and you think it threw you away a little bit.
Yeah.
Think about driving that tractor on top of a pile of hay, about 5 feet off the ground, and a corner collapses. Tractor goes down, rolls over. I mean, I saw the picture. You couldn't roll over anymore.
It flopped back.
It flopped right backwards. All four wheels in the air. Picture a car upside down in a ditch. You've seen accidents like that.
Oh, yeah.
And here you were, knocked out for a while, broken ribs, 8 minutes for the ambulance to get there. And as your brother said, it seemed like an eternity if he hadn't seen it on his watch.
Yep.
Yeah, they rushed you down to CVPH. And,
Yeah, they strapped me to a backboard.
oh, they always do.
Yeah, that's a fun
always
ride
do.
with broken ribs.
Oh, because you can't take a breath, and you couldn't take a good deep
I mean, you
breath.
feel every bump on the road too.
So broken ribs, what else?
Torn spleen.
Oh, jeez, why not? You might as well have a torn.
Oh, yeah.
So you were in the hospital here.
I was in CVPH. I was in intensive care for 4 days. 2 I don't remember.
Two you don't remember
at all. Then another 6 days in the hospital. And then after that, I was home recuperating. It was probably 3 months before I could actually do what I was doing before.
And you know, Dan, we've talked about this before on camera and off. When you got a farm family and everybody's working together and you got one guy that's out of commission for that long,
The other
that's a
guys-
little pressure on the rest of the family.
The other guy, we were putting in long hours after. The funny part about it is he remembered, and this is maybe, he was talking about coming back and finding that he came back in time for second cut. And he actually came back for third cut. So he, you know, how time flew by. We did the second cut went without him. And that was just the three of us doing it at the time.
I
It
can
was a
remember the
lot.
days when you prayed for a second cut. Now you're doing third cut.
Actually,
doing
the
four.
last 2 years,
Come on.
we've done 4 cuts.
You have got to be kidding.
No?
No, we are now doing 4 cuts on the farm. And it's more for digestibility reasons. We do it faster.
Yeah. Can you imagine doing a fourth cut when you started farming?
We started the first cut in July, so we couldn't get 4.
Unbelievable. So it's, of course, it's a lot of extra work. It's a lot of hard work. You didn't know. Did you have to do rehab or anything, or did you?
No, well, there's nothing they actually can do for broken ribs, other than
let 'em heal.
give you shots to numb the pain and make you breathe.
Fortunately, you didn't crack or break any vertebrae,
No.
slip any discs.
If you would have landed underneath, there was no answer
Well,
to it. The answer was, as they tell us at night camp, most of them that flip back aren't survivors.
Yeah.
They say about 1 in 1,000 survived that accident
Yeah.
like that.
Well, I mean,
I don't even
Well,
think I think it's more like 1 in a
with
million.
the,
Because
Roll bars on now, there's more of
Yeah.
a chance to survive.
there was on our North Star Road here in Morris, between Champlain, was a gentleman, I cannot remember his first name. Upton. And he had rehooked, and
Yeah.
the tractor flipped. He was found dead there.
oh yeah.
My first, I don't know if Don remembers this, my first experience with a tractor flip over was Mrs. John Belrose died of an accident. She was taking either the cap off the seat, you know, they used to make cedar oil, and she was taking it, and the tractor flipped over,
Oh, yeah.
and she was crushed underneath. I remember because we went by, I think we were 10 or 12 years old, we were on the school bus, and the people had just got there when it had happened, and they had covered her so we didn't see her, but she had died right there at the scene.
Well, like I said, there'll be a lot of people watching this program who have seen and known about terrible farm accidents, including tractors flipping over. My best friend in high school was there in Rock Hill and Moira. After I left and went to college, his little brother, I think he was 8 years old, we talked about that earlier, tipped over on a farm hall, and they found him later in the day. Never had a chance, just a little kid. You know?
That's right.
So this accident, and one of the main reasons we're here, and we're going to talk a lot about safety. We're even going to show us a little safety thing you guys did. But that's why you got involved in it, to help other people along the way. And you got very much involved in promoting safety through what organization?
Night camp, New York. It's a New York medicine or whatever it's called. I'm thinking Sharon Schofield, Jim Caraba. These people come right to your farm free of charge. They'll go right over the whole entire
Do an
farm.
assessment.
Safety assessment.
assessment.
Yeah.
And they'll go right through with you and do it. And I mean, I'm not talking only tractor safety, I'm talking animal safety.
Guess what I gotta do when they come?
Go hide in the bathroom?
No.
Oh.
Cook. They like chili, so I cook chili.
Unbelievable. He'll butter him up any way he can.
We came up with this workshop. We actually have an on-farm workshop because we have teenage youngsters that work with us. I say the group of us, I say we decided that we're going to put these kids, if they're going to be exposed to this, let's give them some safety. And it's worked out. We've been doing it now, makes 7 years. This year Jim came up with an idea, and we invited I think it was Champlain, Rouse's Point, and Moore's EMS joined us this year.
Wonderful.
And they want to do it again next year. So the chili must have been good.
We have young kids. We got, what, 4 young girls milking here?
Yeah.
That's going to school. Son never been on a farm.
2 going to Plattsburgh State, 1 that goes to Clinton Community.
I think that is so neat.
Yeah.
What a wonderful idea.
Yeah, they're milkers, but we're teaching them training on some of the tractors. We call it the small bobcats or skid steers. Those things are fully protective. We get them, but it's learning them to drive and everything.
Right, but we also don't allow them unless, they won't allow them to actually drive this equipment unless they've taken the
Take our
safety
safety
training.
course here at our safety workshop that we have on our own farm.
This is the new age of farm safety. Back when you started, John Paul, you taught your kids how to be safe.
Yeah.
They watched you, they learned, and you taught them by example. I mean, I don't know if anything could have prevented that accident you had.
The rocks would have.
But yeah,
That-
would have the rollover
It
protection.
had a
Would've
roll
caught.
over, but I mean,
They didn't have them then. I mean, they weren't.
That tractor didn't have it.
you wouldn't,
Put it on after.
in the 1940s and 50s, you know, when I was on the farm, who would think of putting a roll bar on a tractor?
Never heard of it.
Who would think of putting a seat belt on a tractor?
Exactly.
We didn't have them in our cars, let alone on a
Right,
tractor.
right.
That's right.
See all
So
your,
True.
well, this tractor here it's built into it, but it was also built as a full cab
Yeah.
when they were built.
Some of our newer tractors today don't have a right-hand side to get out on, and one of their purposes so you can't get out on that right-hand side to go and work on an implement. It's a reason.
Pretty smart,
It was
huh?
a pretty smart idea. Whoever was thinking.
Who would have thought of that in the old days?
There's a few like that have done that, but that's what's done. So you just don't get off the machine and go work on a machine that's running. As these PTOs are moving at between 1,500 to 2,500 RPMs.
Oh, yeah.
I know some of the newer equipment, the tractors, they're talking as soon as you get off the seat, it'll shut
They do.
Shut it down.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything's hooked up to the, that's not a bad idea either. But these aren't things we thought about in the olden days.
Right.
No.
But that's a good kind of progress. And when you stop to think about it, how many lives you might have saved because somebody goes to work on their farm after they leave your safety program and they say, uh-oh, I remember
right.
so
Very
and
true.
so.
We did have this with our loader. We had a father that was helping out, and we were cleaning calf hutches, and the loader has a tendency. The loader, this was told at our safety, it's a bucket. We do this, and they have a demonstration and everything, having the loader buckets in the air, and the question was given out, why is the farmer going with the loader bucket in the air? And the father said, so he could see. And so then Jim Caraba, who does this, shows it and goes, well, when you get your bucket up there and you just hit a little hole like this is what happens, and the tractor goes over.
Oh, sure.
And
Well,
the son was watching the father do it, and the son was like, I can't believe he's doing it after we had this course. And I said,
Yeah.
at least the son has picked it up right away.
Yeah.
No, but a lot of these tests now are done at University of Nebraska has been doing tests on tractors like that. They have a remote control tractor where they put a bucket on it, they
Of course
lift it
you
in the
do.
air, they run it, they put it through a hole, see how much it takes actually to tip it
They
over.
put a crash test dummy in the
Yeah.
seats and
I was
everything.
gonna say, I bet they use crash test dummies. It's a good thing I don't live there. They'd ask me to go and
Absolutely, they do that.
But that's how far we've come, right?
Yeah.
Since the old days, because we remember, we've had friends who were killed on tractors and on farm accidents. I know there were a lot of people that were injured in the old days, even before tractors were invented.
Yes, for sure.
And I have to just briefly tell a story that I've told before, because I worked for old Dave Hiltz on his farm with Holsteins down in Moira, and he always worked with horses. And we milked by hand until the De Laval and Surge milkers came along.
Yeah, so
But the Ford, what?
So we worked with the old surge buckets.
Oh, yeah. But the Ford tractor salesman came in one day and said, Dave, I want you to try a tractor. He says, I don't know how to run the blankety blank thing. He says, you get on the seat right here, put it in gear right here, you pull the accelerator thing down, and you head back down to the lane, see if you like it. So Dave did. He got it going toward the lane, going right through the fence. And the last thing I heard way down the pasture, whoa, whoa, you son of a, whoa! He finally got it stopped, and he was so embarrassed that he bought the tractor. But still in all, he loved to cultivate with his horses.
the first tractor I drove was an old 1020.
Oh, really? Holy mackerel.
Yeah, I was 10 years old.
With the spike wheels.
Yeah.
Big steel.
Yeah. They used to
Wheels.
put a bigger rim on them with just little nuts, bolt nuts, small bolt nuts. Then you use it to pull the hay loader instead of using horses, to fill the white, and they use that old 1020. But you had to make sure it take a long. You couldn't rake very good because they wouldn't turn very sharp on the end,
Oh, that's true too. Oh.
In our safety course that we had, another thing that they do is many tractors have all kinds of different shut-offs. This tractor, for instance, doesn't start and shut off the same as that tractor over there. They all, and there's, you're looking at Case International, but you have John Deere's, you have the Fords, you have Caterpillars. These tractors have all different ignitions,
Plus you got the ones,
different turn-offs
the
and
Ford
everything.
ones, they're coming in.
Oh, sure.
So you can imagine if a fireman came to a scene or something and he's got to either move it, say a fire and nobody's out there and the tractor's near there and it's potential, he's got to start that thing and move it. And if he doesn't have anything, nobody's nearby to do it, this is an example that these workshops that they're doing is going, look, we can move that thing, we know how.
How soon after your accident did this whole safety awareness thing start?
I'd say about 5 years after.
5 years after. Well,
Maybe.
of course, you thought about safety.
Was that
You went over this
when-
accident in your mind about 40 million times.
Yeah. Actually, when the health nurse actually contacted me from New York State.
Susan Rodning,
Yeah.
that's her name.
How can you remember stuff like that?
He remembers everything.
I don't know what I had for
And stuff he shouldn't remember.
So that's when it started.
Yeah. She contacted us, which then she,
Her question was,
got Jim in contact with
would
us.
you guys like to do an on-farm survey? No pressure, just would you like it done? And I think this was back, 7 years, so it's probably 9 years ago, the first time we met Jim Caraba comes over. And Jim Caraba's about the size of Dad, easy going, small man, came over, talked to us, says, no pressure, just wanted to go over, walk the farm with. We did that, and I don't know how it came, we just started talking. He says, you ever think of just trying a workshop? And I says, that's a great idea. Why don't we try something like that? I says, so we didn't say anything to Jim because we got him to come and cook the chili. He says, we'll just invite a bunch of people and just do it.
Of course.
And that's how it came out to be. And we're now in our 7th year we've done the workshop. We did have to we were picking a date. It's tough to do it when it's crop time. It's tough to do it
you're
when,
busy, yeah.
and we found,
you can't do it in the summer because even though the kids are all off from school, you can't get them all together.
so
Yeah.
we hit the date of January, which was Martin Luther King, because the teenagers have their school day off, and a lot of them aren't going someplace because you get the
You got the 1 day.
you got the 1 day, so they're not really heading someplace, so we've done it that way. So we've been averaging 20, 25 people coming to this workshop.
Isn't that wonderful? Now, do you hook up with any of the other organizations like the Future Farmers or the
Cornell
ag
Cooperative
programs?
Extension.
Actually, most
Cornell?
of it's all been through Cornell.
Cornell
Cornell.
Cooperative Extension, got to put a plug in for Amy Ivy because
Oh, wow.
we do very well with her.
We've We've had a couple of good shows with Amy Ivy
I've
and
been
her
on their,
staff.
I've been on their board for, they just retired me. I've been on the board for 8 years there.
No kidding.
Yeah.
You know, they operate under duress, as most organizations do in this financial crisis. They can barely get enough money.
That's because even good years, they get barely enough money.
You know. But so we give people like Amy, who's just a wonderful person, a fountain of information.
That's right.
and
Outstanding programming over
Yeah.
there.
Now, the reason the boys are broken up here today is because you got vets on the premises, right?
Yeah,
That is
we have a
correct.
state vet, and we have our vet of Northwest vets are here from St. Albans, which is our vets, and one is here to do, we are going to be doing what we call our herd health pregnancy checks, which will have, they're doing ultrasounds for
We hope
pregnancies.
to see one of those later.
You
today,
will.
right? Great.
They're going to be doing that, and what we're also part of is the New York State Cattle Health Assurance Program, and what this is a program to assure the chronic wasting disease, just like in deer, that we avoid this, and look for that.
People don't realize that can affect cattle.
It does. The quality of milk, say like mycoplasma, all these little things that are out there that we're constantly on the guard. And it's a big program that we're involved with, and it's a program that I always push for.
And we also want to see your milking setup, because you got a fairly unique setup here, right, for milking?
Yeah, we do. It's,
Parallel parlor.
yeah.
Parallel parlors, and once again, our viewers have no clue what you're talking about.
Well, if they'd have watched this program, I can't remember what, 1995, they might remember it. Because it was new then. We had
I don't know,
did the
yeah,
program then on it.
We have all kinds of milking facilities. You're in the North Country. You have 2 rotary parlors now in our county, which is above the state. I mean, we're a very progressive dairy county versus other counties.
We are.
Very. I mean, our milk production for the herd averages here in this county is quite a bit above the rest of New York State for production per cow.
That's something to be proud
Yeah,
of.
it's a very aggressive county.
Probably you don't know this, but this county, as far as land tile, is #1 in the whole New York State.
Come on.
It is.
Yeah.
And also
That's a
top
surprise.
end corn
Actually, we've actually-
grain production per
We've actually
acre.
went ahead of most of the state in grain production as far as
Isn't that
production per
amazing?
acre.
Yeah.
I bet you hope you never get into ethanol, right?
No.
Raising corn. That's a whole other subject,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah.
But you're talking about parallel milking and all of that stuff, and we're talking about the olden days when you got milk cans. I got one on each side of my front porch.
I remember we
Close
used
as
to
I
send,
come.
first started, 10 cans of milk a day. Oh my, that was a lot of milk.
Wasn't that amazing? 10 cans a day?
Yeah, it was a lot of milk. Now they send 37,000 a day.
I have often tried to remember how much a full can of milk weighed.
88 pounds, I think it is.
We had a guy that picked our milk up, grabbed one can in one hand and one can in the other
Yeah,
hand,
like that, and put 'em on the
put 'em
truck.
on the truck.
I remember.
Think about that, all you guys who we didn't have to lift weights in those days.
Yeah, brother Rainey, Rainey Racine, that he had the milk route, and I see him do that.
Oh yeah,
Junior Racine, Alfred Racine Jr.
oh yeah. And like I said, you didn't have to go to school and lift weights.
Interesting part is how many cows it took to do that 88 pounds. Because now you have the average cow on this farm is doing 80 pounds of milk.
Come on, are you kidding me?
That's the average cow out there in that barn right now. It does 80 pounds. That's your average. Then we have a few cows out there that know what 200 pounds is, and 200 pounds plus.
I want to meet those guys. Oh, isn't that?
Hard to pick
Long
out.
enough for the beginning of the milking tonight, I'm sure they're the first cows that walk into the parlor because they just need to unload.
And something I can mention here, because we got a little time to kill. What the heck? Ice storm.
Yeah.
How were you affected here?
Oh, well, we worked 24 hours a day for 3 days.
We were 14, 15 days out of power here, but we were on our auxiliary power. It was a lot of work,
Now, how did you run auxiliary power? Off the power takeoff?
Off these power takeoffs.
Yeah,
of these
there you go.
machines. Right there. In
The
fact, there's
generators.
two backup generators right there, right
That's
now.
just 3.
Yeah.
There's one here, and there's 2 right there, ready to go.
We're ready.
There
for
you
the
go,
next-
right there.
We're ready for the next catastrophe.
I hope, and I'm sure you hope, that we never have another one
No,
like that.
no.
Because you didn't miss a milking, did you?
Yeah, we did. We missed the first one because our generator went down on us.
Oh, come on.
Yeah.
No kidding. You know, it's a strange thing. Everything is connected, but memories are too. And how many times we've mentioned the ice storm. Of course, Calvin and I spent a lot of time talking with people, farmers, etc., after the ice storm. But even now, all these years later, it doesn't go away up here.
No, it was always there.
When we started,
Some things in life won't go away.
Oh, yeah.
one of the things that helped us out is we did have our bunker silos, and my brother Dale, who's in the meeting right now, had ordered a mess load of sand, which we bed the herd with sand here. And the sand was put on the outside, where we put it on the outside of the barns to bring it in and bed the cattle with it. And we used 3/4 of that sand so we could get around the yards. And we kept putting it down
You know
to
what?
feed, because
That's what farmers do. You do what you do.
That's
You
right.
do
We
it.
had to take these machines to get on that, and there's no chains or nothing, and that's what you use the sand to get around with here.
You couldn't walk.
feed
You
them.
couldn't walk in your dooryard.
No,
I
you were
mean, you know,
penguin.
right?
We were penguins. It's the best
Yeah.
description. You walk like a penguin for almost 14 days.
The people around this northern tier and our good friends and neighbors across the border up in Canada, where all the big towers went down and everything.
Well, our father-in-law is from Hemingsford, and
Oh, there
they
you
were
go.
35 days without power.
Without power.
That's why
And
I
he was a
mentioned
dairy
that.
And he was
farmer.
he's
I'll never forget that video. And Calvin's got thousands of feet of video that have never been on television. One of these days, like Jackie Gleason used to say, that one of these days. But I'll to the moon, to the moon. But I remember that video with all the power poles and the light poles going down, and somebody taking video out of their window saying, "Oh my God, look at that! There goes it!" And you hear crash,
I
crash.
think it was the second day when we were getting our the power had got off. We were on our second day or something like that. We were hooking up the generator. We'd give it a rest. We were rehooking it up, and the lines here, I call it when you heard that piano
Oh, yes.
piano tighten,
Yeah.
and they just the line snapped, and we looked at. It was funny because there were 3 of us. We looked at each other. They're not coming right away now. They're not going to be here now.
Yeah, no, it was hard to get around the roads, and you know those were. I mean, farming is tough enough.
But it was an awful feeling at night when you went outside then. You go outside and you could not see a light anywhere.
No, it's very strange.
Yeah.
Just amazed me that we didn't have the casualties that.
Well-
if this winter as cold would have came in behind that, we would have
yeah.
suffered casualties.
But you know, that ice storm and a lot of other things like your accident and others just prove that this North Country is a pretty resilient place, and that neighbors help neighbors. We talked about firemen and ambulance
Right, like you were
crews.
saying in the ice
Firemen-
storm.
Huh?
like you were saying for the ice storm.
Oh.
Probably one of the best one that helped us was Jermaine Berto.
Well,
He got
there
us
you
a
go.
generator to
Think
use.
about it.
Yeah.
People going down to Albany, Glens Falls, coming back with loads, flatbeds
Yeah.
loaded with generators.
Yeah.
It was an experience that people won't forget. There's a lot of people with generators ready to go right
Oh,
now
yeah.
that never would have thought about it before that ice storm.
It's true.
But now you have like you said, it isn't the biggest farm in Clinton County,
No.
but 1,100 acres is a lot bigger than the 300 acres we had on the farm we had. And you know, you've got 1,000 head all told, you said?
That's right.
Around 1,000 head. That's a pretty good size farm.
Oh, yeah.
Now, you and your brothers run the farm basically, but you said you hire,
We custom hire the.
what does that mean, custom hire?
They come in and they do field work for us.
I see.
It's custom, yeah, and we have. You could call us a Western type dairy farm because we hire in the crops to be done. The hay crops are hired in. We assist them a little bit, not the majority of it. We hire in the corn silage that's brought in the fall. We have our manure from manure pits custom drawn out. And then the same guys that do it also plow the land. So it's
No
all
kidding.
And then another thing is our heifers, our young stock, I don't know if they've told you in the beginning, is custom now.
No. we didn't.
Okay,
all of them.
all the calves that are here, about the oldest calf gets to be about 11, 12 weeks, and then they're packed off and they go to SJZ. We call them. They go to kindergarten school and all. They get trained over at BNR.
You must have heard of BNR Dairy up there.
Yeah, sure.
That's where they are.
We have about 420 or 400. I never remember the number, but 400 and something head over there right now that are being and. Every month they come back in. We got calves that are leaving, they're picking up, and they're bringing back. So we have probably 12, 13 heifers that are going to be new heifers that are returned here every month. Or I should say, sometimes it's 2 loads in a month. We might get more. We might get 22, 23 heifers coming back in a month. And we send 23, 24 heifers off to them.
Are they tagged?
They're all tagged.
No kidding.
Yeah, they're all tagged. In fact, that's another thing with the meeting we're talking about right now. When I tell you New York State Cattle Health Insurance, our animals that are born have a chip in their ear. So if the veterinarian from the state comes here, he has a reader, can go up to our animals and read that animal.
Think about that. Huh?
He can tell its birth date, its age, its sire. He has all them numbers right now. And if this animal, Barack Obama just said something about knowing where the cow's origin is.
Yeah.
We're already there. We're there ahead of that because if they took it, this animal can be traced right back to our farm because of that chip. If she goes to slaughter somewhere, like if it's where they go, they can trace it right back to our farm because it's just like a social security number. There's a number, you'll see it right on their tags.
Who would have dreamed that 60 years ago, huh?
Yeah.
Tell them about how you do your horns on the calf. They said it's painful, and make the calf suffer. Tell them how you do them now.
We use a lidocaine. It's an injection that would just like you numb your
Must be like when someone does your teeth.
tooth.
Sure.
So we do that, and we wait 20 minutes before they dehorn the calves, and we don't see the calves mix the straw. It doesn't even notice if it bothers because I've seen when we call it burning, or they used to put the paste. Do you remember the paste that used to get on their hoofs and everything? We hated that. And there's this year,
boy.
they do this, and they can do it on a calf that's 2 weeks of age, and it's just a little scar on the top of
That's
his
it?
head. And that calf doesn't even miss a beat to
We
eat. and
wouldn't
everything.
have never dreamed of stuff like that, right?
No.
In fact, we're using it. The vets are showing. The vets that we have today are not like when we had Wayne Evans that was just up in Moores. Our vets come from St. Albans. We were going to go, like before, with Dr. Palmer, he's busy. I mean, he's got a lot of clients himself, so he couldn't get here on time. Same with them. We're doing actually a lot of the triage here on our farmers ourselves. So we do.
Has to be an actual emergency before we actually call a vet in.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, so we're triage. The farm itself, we have our own group, we're our own triage now.
Now let me ask you another question. How many other farmers in Clinton County are going along with this safety program that you're?
I'd say quite a few.
Yeah.
We've had at least half a dozen or so come to the meetings.
We've had Danny
over the
Gay
years.
here from Champlain. We've had Gary Menard. Trying to think of some others that I've seen here at our.
Yeah.
I can say at least 7 or 8 other farms in our locale that's been here.
Now there'll be people who watch this program not only on the area's cable systems but elsewhere on the internet at Plattsburgh.com who would love to get more information because this is a wonderful idea. Who
I
could
can't-
ever deny that after what you went through? How would they get a hold of you to get more information?
To get hold of us, actually the easiest way would go through Cornell Cooperative Extension.
Or go to NICAMP. They have a
Yeah.
website.
That's
Yep.
NYCA.
MPH or something
Yeah,
like that.
exactly.
Wow, it's easy to find
Yeah,
things like that.
and they have a website. They're in Cooperstown besides.
Oh, there you
Close
go.
by
Yeah.
to us.
There.
Well, they're in a big farming community
Sure.
too, so.
Yeah, I would say that it behooves all farmers, big or small, to get involved in some safety program.
Right.
Just based on what
would
you've
pay.
heard or seen today.
I even believe this is for people with the small size mini lawnmower who don't have that on it, because I've seen that thing outweighs
How
you.
many times Grandpa got the lawnmower out there with the little grandchild on his
Yeah.
lap or
That's-
standing on the
That was
back.
a no-no.
That's a no-no.
That was always, when we grew up,
But
when
then
the
also,
kid
like
grew
you,
up,
you go driving around, you
Oh,
see
didn't
somebody,
that
a
kill
kid
you?
on their lap.
that was a no-no.
No,
here.
that's not something
And
you should
on
be
a
doing.
tractor, too. I never put my kids on a tractor with me. Never.
See?
Never.
That's why you still got all your boys and they got all their fingers, right?
And today, you know, if they want to get one of those put on, the government pays some of it now, right now.
Well, that's a good point.
Yeah.
How much does it cost to put a roll bar in a tractor?
They're about $1,200.
But
Night camp pays, rebates you $850
that's
right
the
now.
point.
It's a
Well, that's what I
no-brainer.
wanted, yeah. It is a no-brainer.
Right.
How, is a
Pretty
life,
cheap.
is a life worth that amount of money? Yeah, easy,
more
a
than that.
lot
You
more.
can't replace life.
Even, I think the worst thing would be paraplegic.
Yeah.
Sitting in there in a
Well,
wheelchair after you've done something
Could
like
have
that.
happened to this guy
Exactly.
right here, just one split second.
That's right. And he was, well, we're going to go
That's
back
true.
in
It all
time.
happens in the
20
blink of
years-
an eye.
20 years ago at the great, nice age to be when you're 27, 28 years old to be put into a wheelchair. Or,
Yeah. You know, I have to pay a compliment to some of the other media in this area who pick up on stories like this. Your article was in the paper,
Yes, it was.
and has it been any other places, any other media?
Let's see. Actually, so all the equipment dealers have that same. I don't think they have the video, but they have the brochures
I've
on
been
it.
in 2-3 farm magazine, too.
Two or three farm
Actually,
magazines?
just did an interview with Farm Journal, so it's
Oh, you
probably
did?
going national.
Oh, see, that's wonderful. Make sure you get a real trimmed that mustache.
Well, they didn't come and take a picture. I think they
they
used the picture they had.
That's why I don't grow a mustache. I don't have to trim it anymore. Besides, my wife won't let me.
that's right.
Mine said she'd divorce me if I cut it off.
Oh, that's what we used to call, my wife gave me an all tomatoes. Now, let me ask you another silly question. Did you guys graduate from school right locally? All the
Northeastern.
All
boys?
from Northeast.
Northeastern, then what? Did you go to school after that?
No,
I did night school at Clinton Community.
Good for you. All right.
no, I didn't
Hard
go on.
knocks for you, right?
Yeah. Well, actually, we still go to school. We go to different meetings every year.
Every day you're learning.
They go to seminars every year.
Yeah.
Dale and I'll be in Minnesota next week for
Come on.
3 days. Yeah.
No
And
kidding.
he's got his granddaughter, though. She's 20.
Yeah.
She's just as good with the cows.
Your
as they-
granddaughter.
Yeah, my
Your
gran-
granddaughter, not
My
his.
granddaughter. my
Wait a minute, let
granddaughter.
me figure this out now. Let me figure this out now.
Senior moment. Senior moment.
I have about 20, 30 of those a day.
She can treat cows with IVs and everything. She knows everything about the farm.
She's a graduate from Plattsburgh State.
No kidding.
My son's going to SUNY Morrisville, where he's learning
Okay.
dairy
That's
management.
the best. Oh, that's wonderful. Okay. Well, we got a few other things to talk about. While we're standing here, any other chapter that you want to discuss about the safety program? So I want to make sure everybody knows why you started it and what you're doing now. But it's something you think about every day. Right?
They have, like we said, there's methane on the, there's a lot of things we're finding out. Entrapments. We come up with something new every year.
You know, methane, it's a good point. We haven't mentioned that here. In case people don't know, that's powerful stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And we produce a lot of it on farms, don't we?
And in the small, we call it rams or small holes in these where it goes into the pits
Yeah.
or receptacles, and there's parts or things they got to work on. If they get into those, the methane is you can't see it, you can't taste it,
course not. Can't
even
you can't
smell
smell it, but it's there.
You're done before you even
Right.
know.
Yeah, you know, you're done for you
Of
know
course,
it.
Yeah.
person passes out in there, and the next person sees them in there, figuring they go in after them, and
Well, that's
In
like,
Michigan-
that's like grabbing electric
This past
live
year,
wires, you know?
this past year in Michigan, there's 7 people dead because of methane going into one of that. And what had happened is the first one went down to save the one that collapsed. They got overwhelmed. The next one went
Oh,
down.
yeah, sure.
And this is training that needs to be taught out there.
But in this shop, in the field, on the tractor, on the bucket loader, on the bobcats, anywhere, even in your house if you're not careful, you got to think safety. You have to teach safety to the kids, and if farmers and the young kids can all take the safety course, maybe it'll get the brain
Yeah. I mean,
Working.
you know, when you say I'll go back to Cornell Extension, food safety,
Oh, yeah. Well,
preparation of food. You know, you think about it, there's a lot of that
hear
stuff.
a lot about salmonella, don't we?
Absolutely. And, you know, we see this here. It's here. The animals, you know, there's salmonella, there's all kinds of things out there. The bacteria are out there. And we have to be, the right word is vigilant or thinking about it. It's always there. And we have to remember it, that it's just don't forget it. It's there.
You promised we're going to see a sonogram.
Yes.
It won't look like the ones I've seen for all my great-grandchildren and
I
great-grandchildren.
don't know if you can see the sonogram, but
Well, we can't see it.
Because he's got a.
see if they can move it close enough without getting.
I don't know. He'd have to get his outfit where he looks.
You
Let's
don't
see.
know.
Calvin might be good
You
enough.
don't know. I was in Pearl Harbor.
Bring your waiters, Calvin.
I was in Pearl Harbor a couple months ago, and they had a periscope set up, like a real periscope, but in a yard. You could look through and look all around. I stuck the camera next to it, took a perfect picture. So
There you go.
we can see in a cow's belly, I hope.
Well, I went to the doctor, Bengal, because I had an operated for, I had they call a lesion in my bladder. And they go up through your penis, you know, and they check it out, and you can see everything on the picture.
On the screen. Isn't it
Screen.
amazing?
Everything. They showed me where you had to take, what you had to take out. Then he
It's
said,
incredible.
we'll take it out. And then 2 weeks later, he went and they took it out. They put me to sleep. I went in 7:30. At 10 o'clock, I was back home.
It's a different ballgame than
Yeah.
it used to be. Huh?
Yeah.
The laser surgery.
Yeah, it's all done by, it's not the doctor that does it, it's just that, I call that machine or something that they got.
It's amazing. We see it all the time when they check your heart valves and check your carotids, and you stand there and you see it all on the.
And and even in this industry, you think we're
We're
done,
that
and
far.
we're not.
That
We're not.
I
All
was-
things keep changing.
I was writing a column today about things that happened 100 years ago, and 100 years ago, over 90% of all babies in the United States were born at home.
Yeah.
Think about that, huh?
Yeah.
Never mind cows.
It's going to be the anniversary this year. The meeting I'm going out, it's the anniversary that frozen semen for the bovine
Yeah.
had been invented. We're going a step further. It's going to be 3 generations in the AI industry, what they call a new thing called genomics, where they're going to take a snip of the DNA of the young baby bull calf, 2 days old, and they will know what his daughters will do in 3 years.
Oh, come on. You gotta be, they can project that?
They have already begun doing it. There's one bull that's out doing it right now. They've already done it with him. And
It's beyond belief,
It's
isn't
belong.
it?
I mean, to know what her genetic potential of tomorrow is 3 years in advance. I mean, we thought when MOAT, in which there's multiple embryo transfer, was done in our industry, that was a big jump. And now they're going, well, you know, they used to go by the male side for the genes. Now we're jumping on the female side to improve the genes pool even faster.
It's amazing. And we thought it was incredible
We thought we
when
were done.
farms got computerized.
Yeah.
When you got all your milk records and stuff. And we walk into your shop today, there's the computer with a flat screen monitor, any information about what the milk is doing.
Oh,
They're
that's
gonna, yeah, you're gonna have GPS done this year on a farm in Shazy, New York. Dutch Rover's gonna be doing GPS.
Yeah, we've
with
got
the
it where you can
crops.
hook up a piece of equipment,
Of course.
and you can follow within 6 inches of where you cut before. Let's say you're cutting hay, you can be within 6 inches of where you were cutting before.
Leave
piece of equipment.
leave it to Dutch to get on to that kind of
Hey,
technology.
he's behind as far as concerns being out west.
Midwest, yeah, he's
Now,
just,
the one,
They've
the
been doing
machine
that
we
for the
had
last
here
10
to
years.
cut hay, it cuts 30 feet wide.
It takes the guesswork out of how
Think of that with your horse and a mowing machine
Yeah, you know,
with the
5
bar
foot,
mower, 5 foot.
cut a bar.
Oh boy, oh boy.
But you know what? They're coming back to that,
Really?
where it's just a cutter bar instead of all the other mechanics in them. Because they're finding out it dries the hay faster.
Yeah, not because they used to have the rollers. Remember your
crushers.
father's had the crusher?
Yeah.
They're getting away from the crusher because they're now going to hay in a day where they flatten it right across the field
Oh, yeah.
and pick it up. Still with the big, I
Of
call
course,
it
now you gotta have a,
hay
you gotta have a
choppers,
rake.
but
You still kind of a 30-foot hay bind, but now you gotta have a rake that'll bring it all back into one.
I just imagine, can you imagine, I call it this, the ground speed that used to go across was 3.5 miles when they were going. And when you're watching these corn choppers go through it, it's, unbelievably 11, 12 miles an hour. And
Think about that. You
think of
can't
the-
run that fast.
No, I mean, you can imagine the tons that are being put in those trucks as that fast, And these guys now talking seconds and minutes instead of,
As things get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and you have to have
But,
a bigger farm to survive, you got to do stuff like
Now
that.
think of it this way. Now, I've been here 70 years, I'm going to say 70 years I've been watching this.
I
now,
love it. I love it.
How much it changed from then to now.
Oh, yeah.
How is it going to be in the next 70 years?
Well, I hope you're still around to find
I
out.
won't be. Guaranteed. If I am, it'll be a miracle.
Well, we'll come back and do a TV show. And it makes you 157 years old saying, well, I remember, young
I sure
fella.
won't be cooking.
Are you kidding? That chili's pretty magic stuff. It's got powers that most of us can't even imagine.
Yeah.
Well, let's do some more talking. We're talking with the Tetreault family here on, is this Dubois Road, right?
That's right.
Dubois Road up in Champlain, a couple of days after St. Patty's Day 2009. Stay tuned. The best is yet to come.
One thing, when we moved here, there was 13 farms here on this road. Now it's only us.
That's it. Okay, we'll talk some more. Stay tuned.
less than 6 hours.
All right, we're underway again. Yeah, Donnie said 4. Now we got 6.
The
So
only-
where are we?
You're in where this is the old facility. We moved here in 1989 when we bought our Uncle Donald and Uncle Rollins farm out. And this is a converted freestall where the cows are loose housed. We reconverted it again. This is our cud group, and the cud group is close-up dry cows. And these cows most of these cows you see right here are going to calf within next 21 days.
Ah,
There's always 16, 17 cows in here, but those cows are going to calf pretty soon, as you can see. And when they're ready to calf, or we see feet and legs start to show, they get dumped into these, which is the box stall, individual box stall. This one here is just loaded up because these calves are all born in the last 12 hours. They don't stay in here too long. And they're going to go outside to the hutches that are, some are what we call the bull calves.
That's a young heifer over there, eh?
Yeah, that's a young first calf heifer. Well, she's a first calf heifer walking away. 21, 22 months.
that is truly. Dale, how are you?
Hey, good to be back.
Haven't seen you in hours.
He goes and take a nap.
I was getting tired.
How'd you make out? Okay.
Did fine. Yeah.
We saw the hutches as we walked by. The wind was blowing about 30 miles an hour. Calvin says, "I want to get inside." So this is pretty old barn here.
Built
I can tell by the
in,
timbers.
There's a long story with this barn. 1956 in December. It was an old barn here. They burnt, everything burnt. My dad lost everything, all the cows, everything.
Come on.
Yeah.
56?
Yeah. And that's the year I got married. So,
The year we get married.
It had nothing to do with the fire, though, right?
no,
I hope not.
but then during the winter, we had I had a tractor 300, and we put 2 wagons on the back of that tractor, and every day during the winter, I'd take off, I'd go to Minor. Minor, we bought where the cattle barn is. On the other side of the cattle barn, on the east side, there was another barn. I think it was 100 feet wide and 200 feet long. We bought it for, I don't know, $25 to take it down. So we took it all down during the winter. I drove back and forth, no cab on the tractor. And we brought it here, and
Tough guys, huh?
my dad would pull the nails out of it, all the lumber over here and placed it, and this is where all this
These are
lumber
beams
comes
the
from.
miners,
Beam,
the old miners.
all the
Because
beams in
these
there.
beams look older than 1956.
That's where
I
they
thought
come
you were
from.
telling me one of your tall
No, that's what
Tails.
No.
Isn't that amazing? And built this barn from
Yeah.
all that old stuff
Yeah,
from miners.
from miners.
Oh my goodness gracious.
Now, if you want to know how hot the fire was,
Yeah, we want to know how hot was the fire, Dale?
if you look at that shed
Those
right there, the shingles, you see the black on
Oh,
those shingles.
absolutely.
That's what the heat from the fire was, and that was in '56. And my grandfather said that the wind was blowing at about 30 miles an hour
From the west.
from the west, and the heat was so intense it melted those shingles on that.
This is the east side.
This is the east
Yeah,
side.
so that's 53 years ago.
And
The north side is they replaced them.
he had very little insurance on it, on the everything here.
Yeah.
And we built it from. It didn't cost much. We got all lumber, built it ourselves.
That's a lot of pounding, a lot of pounding.
And how we found out why it started the fire. In the old barn, they had a wooden silo, built a wood square silo,
Yeah.
and we thought it would be all right. We filled it up with sawdust, and it heated, and that's what started the fire.
So many things can start fires. How many times have we seen spontaneous combustion in a haymow? Huh? In the old days?
Yeah.
Lots and lots and lots. So what else you want to see today? Huh? Are you going to show us a sonogram, or are we not going to get
Actually,
to see
we're
one?
going to go out and see Dr. Peter Averill from Northwest Vets while he's preg checking and checking our cows' ovaries with my niece. And I don't know if you'll actually get to see a sonogram itself, but you'll see
he
the
might be
man.
able to stick the camera in that eyepiece.
You'll see the man in action.
We'll make an offer anyway. All right, let's go.
All right.
All right, we're in the big barn now.
Yeah, right.
How big is this barn?
It's 300 by 105.
Come on.
Nope.
How many cattle in here right now? Would you guess?
493.
Oh, Dale. How many calves up at the other end?
How many cows at where? 60 calves and hutches right now, and I believe there are 11 calves in the shed and 87 or 89 in the old
Who
barn.
needs a computer when you got Dale, right? The wheels are always turning. And if he were wrong, you think I'd know the difference? Right, what's actually happening here today? We met Dr. Peter
Averill.
Averill.
And he's doing our herd clinic right now. And what we're doing is he's going through and he's checking. This is our high group where he's in right now.
What does that mean?
That means, well, on behind me is what's known as our fresh group. A cow will come in here right after calving and
Right.
stay in here for approximately 21 days. They'll be temped every single day and treated if they have any fevers or any dystocia from calving, because that's also trauma.
Sure.
Aspirin and Sucrets.
Yeah. And then once they're ready, we break them into two groups. If you have a heifer will go into the heifer group, which is down, first calf heifer group, which is down at that end.
Yeah.
Then this end is just a little ways of the second calf group. And then this is what's a high group, which is cows that have had over 2 calves and producing a large volume of milk. And they're fed a different diet at that same time. So then we try to wait. We have a voluntary waiting period of about 60 days where we want to try to start to breed them. And that way there we can start the cycle all over again with the cows. And Dr. Abel is going through and checking the ovaries on the cows that aren't bred to see if they're in the right stage of cycle where we can induce, get the egg to fall and everything like that, so we can get the cow bred at the right time and get her to conceive. And there's even, not in our dairy, or I should say not in our milking herd, but in the heifers, there's even things as sex semen now where you can
You mentioned it before. Tell us about that.
pick a specific cow and you say you want to get her bred to whatever top bull, that's being offered, and you can get her bred to sex semen, which I think it's about 95%
95%, you'll get a female calf.
female calf out of her.
That's beyond what I can even understand. That's
I
amazing.
prefer it because the virgin heifer who's going to have her first calf, and we call it dystocia, in other words, calving difficulties. She has a female calf. The female calf has a smaller head and an easier calving ease. So today it's something that we didn't talk about is the investment in these animals. an animal from the day one she's born to the time she has her first baby, we've got $1,100 to $1,200 invested in that one animal.
Kidding.
That's right.
Wow.
So we don't want, if she calves that day, she comes back to your farm, she calves, and she dies in calving, you're out $1,200 right there. Right then and there, you are done for her. Chalk it up, go to the next one, but you're out $1,200 when you lose the first calf that's never milked for you.
Oh yeah, and that's a huge consideration. And you have cows that are still milking. You got a couple that are 15?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's peer pressure. It's you either milk here or you become Hamburg.
Well, that's
It's the ball game here.
the pure
You need to be
economics of
productive.
it.
That's right. You
Can't
need to
have
be-
no pets. No more pets. You
You remember the pets when we were kids?
Yeah.
And the kids would take them to the fair and
I still have my favorites. I can't lie that. Being the herd manager, I still have my favorites here that I still like.
They
And
give them names.
Yeah.
They all have numbers,
they
but they
always
get a
had
name.
names, right?
They have names.
but I think a lot of our success for longevity is the sand beddings that the cows get to lie in versus mattresses or cement floor. I mean, you take, like when you guys and Dad are talking, cow basically laid on a cement floor with maybe a little straw or sawdust underneath
A
them.
little store, darn little
But
sometimes.
today these cows lay on a sand bedding, which is almost 6 to 8 inches of sand. And I mean, down below that is stone, way down. We're talking, way down just for drainage. But you look at the cows today, there's no hock injuries like what you used to see and
Sure.
bruises and, they're in a much better condition than what they used to be. And there's some farms that have gone as far as putting rubber
Mats down here
on the
where they
floor
walk.
where they
Seen
walk.
them, yeah.
And I mean, that's an awesome thing. It's just that when we built the barn, we didn't know about it yet. So it could be something in the future. Who's to say yes and who's to say
Who
no?
knows what century that might be?
Who knows?
We've come an awful long ways just since you guys were little kids, and John Paul, since he started out here all those years ago. It's unbelievable. We were kidding about him being around 70, 75 years from now.
Yes,
But
sir.
even 5 years, even 10 years. Look at what you've done in the last decade
Yeah,
right here on this farm.
that's right. I could ask Dale, which is your top? What's your top producer here right now in that group?
Actually, she's in this group right now, and she made 182 pounds of milk.
Can't believe it.
And
Can't believe
and that's-
182 pounds of milk.
and that's one milking, no BST. So
It's incredible.
yeah,
What's the average, did you say before?
77 pounds was
Yeah,
our
I
average
think
cow.
Just so you got
say-
something to think about. Oh yeah, I heard a beep in your chest there. That can mean one of several things. It's too early for supper.
It's not mine.
Oh, okay. So anyway, yeah, that's true.
It's 2X.
Twice a day.
Just twice a day milking.
milking.
Yeah.
You thought about it, though?
Thought about it. Thought about a lot of things I don't do.
There's so many schools of thought. You got to get up early in the morning just to study this stuff.
Well, I've talked to a lot of farmers that do 2X milkings or, even have Hispanic milkers. And, if you have that one extra milking and you come up short, guess who's got to do that work?
Oh yeah.
And
Oh yes.
you've got to do that third milking or whatever. So, that's another chore you may have to undertake, and you had no plan of doing it. So, it's nothing. I do enough as it is in a day. I don't want to add to my chore list. But the guys that do milk 3X, I think they do as good a job as I think it's a more of a management decision than it is.
I think you're right, based on what I've heard.
There's some guys that do great jobs with 3X milking, and there's some guys that do great jobs with 2X milking. Remillard Farm in Peru is one of the top herds in the county, actually in the state, and they only milk 2X, so got to be something there.
How many cows out there do you know?
Remillards?
Yeah.
About 400. Adirondack, which is in Peru, they're 1,600 milking. So just thinking of, Dutch Rover has about 1,100 cows milking now. Chez Liz is 700 to 800 cows. Bubbins probably same area, and we're about 500. So we're all pretty much in that area,
Now we're talking. This farm started out quite small. added on until we're up to 1,100 acres. Are they all touching? Are all these?
Yeah.
It's all.
Farm, they're all
along one-
touching. Yeah.
Oh, except for one wood lot.
One wood lot. Yeah.
Was it all on the same side of the road?
No,
Yeah.
both sides. You own both
Both
Actually,
sides.
it's all on this road.
It's all on Dubois Road.
On there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As you said before,
no,
there were a
that's
lot of farms on this road way back when, and not so many right now.
No,
huh?
that's just this one. No
Yeah.
other. Whereas there
That's
there'd be 13 farms on this road.
We just talked about that maybe about a couple months ago about what we send for production, what those farms are sending for production, and it'd be we blow it out of the water for the production we put out of here. It's just unbelievable.
Well, there are a lot of reasons for that. If you were
Yeah.
to be very honest.
Right.
Total cow comfort we talk about. These cows are so comfortable. It's just
Well, let's ask them.
yeah, they will. I mean, they could because you try to get a cow out of the stall if she's just laid
There
down
she
in
is.
it.
There's a cow that made 180 pounds of milk right
There
there.
it is. She came.
Yep.
She heard you.
She heard me talking
Maybe
about
that
her.
brain that you were talking about is a little bigger than you said it was.
She's not the most friendliest cow in the world.
Oh, she's not.
No. If you milk her, the boys say you got to earn her milk.
You know,
Been there and done that.
too, right now, we didn't know how to take care of cows compared to what they do now.
No.
We didn't know.
You only know what you know.
That's
you
right.
Learn,
And
you
we
learn
didn't have
from your
to feed-
father or
feed
some
them.
farmer.
Changes in feed. I mean, the way
Feed.
is
Well,
made now
that's a
compared to what it was
huge,
then.
huge consideration. We're talking about how you feed calves now.
Yeah.
I mean, from the very beginning, it's
And,
day
they
and
get-
night.
They get their feed tested every week, eh?
Yes.
Every week.
We do
feed
dry.
is
I do
tested.
dry matter tests every week with Cindy Roy, so I can put a plug in for Cindy.
of course. Why not?
Cindy comes over and her job is I call it for the kids out there. We call it poopy management, and she's got to
Why
go
not?
through.
That
and
works for
see-
me.
And their job is Actually, I work back and forth. That's my job. Is we're going how much digested feed is going through, the usability of the feed, and the efficiency they're using that feed.
Yeah.
And we want to know, if they're wasting, if we're putting in too much protein, too much. And we do the milk urea nitrogen test, which is we take that test to see if we're using too much nitrogen in it. I mean, there's a lot of things we're testing today. Just to keep track of it is, like I said, that's what the office is for.
But you guys, if our audience can't figure that out by now, you guys love every minute of it. I mean, you might gripe and complain at the end of a particularly hard day when a machine breaks and something happens and you can't get a hold of somebody and you can't get a part. But all in all, I would like to convey to our audience that this is a good way of life in many ways, isn't it, Dale?
Yeah, it is. I mean, you can't beat this way of life. You're outdoors. I mean, you work with a lot of people that you like, and you think about a lot of the people that we do work with, like our veterinarian, Dragoons Farm Equipment, Jermaine Berto, family, and those guys are like family too. You
Like
know,
extended family, really.
yeah, yeah.
We depend on each other all the time.
Yep.
Bayshard's, I could list them all. Bayshard's Farm Equipment,
Yeah.
Giroux's in Chazy, and it's kind of like you said, there isn't one of those people that I couldn't call, that any of us couldn't call late at night if we had a piece of equipment broken down, that
Because they understand.
what do we got to do to make it right?
Oh,
What do we
yeah.
got to do to fix it?
Even our people at Agamark, the people who make that macadam cheese and that. Since he started in 1953 sending to Chateauguay Co-op, which became Agamark,
Oh,
which
yes.
is
Oh, yes.
his milk, or the milk that's been produced here, has been going up in macadam's cheese since 1953.
Think about that, folks.
Yeah,
That should put it all into a little bit of perspective.
that's right.
Of course, it goes there a little different way than it did back then.
Right. But I mean, right now, I have it on both sides of my hat. Agamark is the runner of both Cabot and McAdams, and you have the world's best cheese and New York State's finest. So
So, Wisconsin,
we're giving them a run.
you got to do it.
Granddaughter over there, she went to, where'd she go to?
Or she was just in Oregon. How many days?
The minor students.
No kidding.
And she ate tea over there, so it's not good like ours here.
I tell you, that's our story, and we're sticking
Our
with it.
Professor Dave Galton said this, was up here, and he's at Cornell University, and said that that's our niche up here in the North Country, is our cheddar has a flavor versus any other cheddar made in the world. It's sticks out. Both northern Vermont and northern New York.
I've always insisted that, but then I'm partial, to this entire area. We have so many wonderful friends. Do you guys, we were just talking about maple sugaring. Do you guys tap any trees? Nobody taps trees on your property?
We have
we have someone that taps trees.
on your property?
Ben Huff taps trees on our property right
Quite
now.
a few maples here?
Good portion of it. It's hard to believe that. I just came from the Northern New York conference, and they said that only 3% of our trees are tapped up here. It's quite an interesting not touched.
That's the point I was getting. I was hoping you'd say it because it doesn't just sound right when I say it.
Just 3%.
But it's true. We're partial to our maple syrup here, and I think we produce some of the best honey and maple syrup up here. Well, people, that's hard work too,
Absolutely.
You talk to my friend Earl, the Pearl Parker.
He used to do it. He won't do it.
Well, it's hard work, and he and I did it. I'm sure you did it the way we did it when we were young people, where you got to go and drill a hole.
Go to the woods with a team of horses, and if enough snow, the team would get stuck in the
With a big
woods.
tank on the back. Yeah,
Let's do all
it's a
that.
whole different ballgame. It is hard work.
Our father-in-law still does maple syrup. Sugar.
Really?
He's in Hemingsford, Quebec.
Yeah, good. And in Vermont, and
Blue ribbon winner.
I went
no
to,
kidding.
Yes, he is.
I went to Sample store and this morning, and they sell their maple syrup $37 a gallon.
So it's coming down.
That's not bad.
There you go. Stop to think about it.
Guys fellas we know over in Vermont that actually do our custom manure hauling. Also, both in the sugar maple business. One does 60,000 taps, and the other one does 6,000.
I'll give you one of the names is the Brandon family over there in Brandon. Tom Brandon's and them. That's their son Kyle does some of our custom work. And
Imagine doing 60,000 taps. I worked for a guy when I was 15 years old who had 5,000 taps, and it was unbelievable. He had legs that came up to here, and he had a gas engine on his back, and my job was to put the taps in. And you talk about going through the snow. Never mind the horses getting stuck. He'd look around, and I'd be way back. He'd say, "Come on!"
You ever see those four-wheelers with tracks?
Oh yeah,
They travel all over the woods with those.
see that? What a different ball game.
Yeah.
But that's true. I'm glad you mentioned that small percentage of the maple trees that are tapped. It's a tremendous resource up here. Maybe somebody viewing this program, because when we were kids, if you had 5 maple trees in front of the house, us kids tapped every one. My mother's kerosene stove got a good workout with that.
get that 40 gallons into that 1 gallon.
But as far as I'm concerned, and our viewers know this firsthand, there's nothing like a wood fire in a boiler in the woods in a sugar house. Sitting there, stay awake all night, feeding the fire, boiling sap. Oh God, and the taste of that sap, taste of that maple syrup.
Most of those bigger outfits, though, they're not wood
I know.
wood boilers.
I know all about that.
This has got to be the favorite time of year though for the spring.
Yeah.
That's my option when I'm working at the bunkers. I see every bird there is comes to my bunker.
There you go.
And the red-winged blackbird, this is the day after St. Patty's,
Yeah.
he's here.
Yep.
And that's my sign of spring when I see the red-winged blackbird
I
show
saw
up.
them on the yard this morning. I hollered at my wife. They're here.
There's robins. I saw them this morning
Yeah.
too.
Some of those stupid robins stayed here all winter long. What the heck do they know? Boy, now you're seeing piles of geese coming over.
Right. Here, Gordy, I got something for you. What do you think that is?
I have no idea.
That's a citrus pellet. Citrus pulp.
I thought maybe it was a rabbit, a citrus pellet.
Yeah.
And
It comes from
Florida.
Florida.
When they make orange juice, they squeeze all the
the pulp and
pulp
the skin.
down. And years ago, people are talking about everyone going green. Farmers have been green for years, just never been recognized.
Recycling.
That used to be put in landfills.
Yeah, sure.
That beet pulp when they make the sugar, and we now feed that to our cows. Cottonseed, the same thing.
You cottonseed too?
Cottonseed also.
Why not? There's
the
nutrition.
distillers from ethanol is being used. You can use about 6 to 7%, and the grade depends on how much it's been processed. But you can feed it back to the cattle. The ethanol distillers. They actually, we don't have that many close by, but a lot of I'd say like Pouline's or these grain companies that are local get their distillers up here from the Molson distilleries or from Shinley's. That's where that distillers comes from.
And that's all being fed to cows now.
We're getting an education here, folks. All right, this is the tail end of our program, Dale. We met the Tetreault family, and we've enjoyed getting the family history and the genealogy and the history of the farm and farm safety and so on. And at the end of the program, we're talking about testing here. What's Dr. Peter doing right now?
Dr. Pete Averill is he's checking each cow that we have locked up right now, and some of it's for pregnancy, as some is to see what part of the cycle the cow is in, to see if we can get her to come in heat by giving her a series of shots. Same as if a woman was to go in and wanted to become pregnant, and she went and saw her gynecologist, and I guess it'd be obstetrician. I said, well, it'd be one and the same. And wanting to become pregnant, it'd be the same sort of concept, just in a different type of environment, obviously. But what he's doing is detecting where this cow is in her cycle. And then there's other cows that are also locked in here at the same time, and he's checking to see, whether she's pregnant or not. And with the ultrasound he's using, he can detect whether she has a single or a twin in there. And at about 30 days, about 30 days of pregnancy, or I should say after she's bred, he can detect whether she's pregnant. And then we'll go back at 100 days and see if she's
He can see this in the glasses.
He can see this in the glasses.
Isn't that amazing? And he can see both sides.
He can see both sides. He'll be able to. I mean, if you wanted to ask him, he could probably give you a little more definition of how it goes down.
As it turns out, that's quite a pretty good explanation, I think, that you gave us. We only got about a minute left in our tape here, and while we're here, I want to thank all you boys. And you too, young man, Jean-Paul, the Tetreault family, for inviting us up here today. I'll shake all of your hands right on camera. This has been an educational, tremendously wonderful educational experience for me, and because of that, I know it is for our viewers as well. Hard-working, salt of the earth, I used that phrase before, and the safety programs came out of the fact that he went backwards with that tractor in 1989, and here we are today. May you all stay hale and hearty for a very long time, and remember, I'm coming back in 75 years. You better greet me at the door and push my wheelchair out to the.
Might be up there, though. Might be at the door up there.
For you, my friend, there'll be cows up there.
Yeah, I don't want no
You'll
cows.
never. Thank you.
What is beer?
I don't know if there'll be any Michelob Light up there, Ultra. Anyway, gentlemen, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm
Gordon.
sure there's a few women behind the scenes, including the granddaughter, who helped this whole thing to run smoothly.
My wife, Catherine.
My wife, Lorna.
And,
My wife Carol, who also owns Adirondack Tack.
of
Thought I'd
course,
put that plug in
give
there.
her a little plug. Thank you all for viewing. Your suggestions are always appreciated.
You forgot checkbook.
Checkbook! Get the checkbook out and make.
Actually, no, it's
That's my wife. They call it checkbook.
Oh, the reason I mentioned checkbook at the end, and I call my wife checkbook too, is because this program Calvin has been doing since the early 1980s, and we need a little bit of help to survive from our viewing public. So if you can make a nice check out to Hometown Cable, send it up to Calvin on the Ridge Road, that would be nice. Wherever you're viewing this program, we appreciate it. Always love your comments and suggestions. And now we're on Plattsburgh.com and Hometown Cable Network, so they can see us in Zimbabwe and Cucamonga.
It doesn't happen often, but it happened this time. Gordy actually talked his way right through the end of today's tape. We started off today's program with a picture of the Hidden View Farm as it appeared in the 1880s in Heard's History of Clinton and Franklin Counties. Unfortunately, the first 35 seconds of our video didn't turn out, so we weren't able to actually show that at the beginning. We lost the 35 seconds of audio that started the program. So we're going to end with that picture of the Hidden View Farm as it appeared back in 1880. It was owned then by Mr. Charles M. Corpron. Mr. Corpron is pictured on your right, and to the left is his wife, and according to this book, her name was Mrs. Charles Corpron. So back in the 1880s, married ladies did not have first names, apparently. They went by their husband's name, and we see that in a lot of old church records that we've come across, where donations were made by Mrs., and it's a husband's name instead of than her first name. So we want to thank the Tetreault family for taking time out from their busy farm schedule, and we think this was an interesting look at farm life in the North Country, and of course the farm safety is a very important factor. So thanks for watching, and for those of you supporting Hometown Cable.